Double agent in one piece, from Rox Pirates to World's Most Wanted. Please like, share and subscribe. Episode 21. Wait, there's something to say, there's no need to do it. Kaido saw Lynn raise her knife, somewhat provoked, and quickly took a step back. He couldn't beat Lynn, so naturally he would admit it. After all, he wasn't the future Kaido, and certainly couldn't have been unafraid of death. Even the future Kaido, as long as he can be injured by Lynn, will be afraid of death. How? Admit it? Lynn put down the knife in her hand and didn't move. How to say that Kaido is also his favorite little brother? Naturally it is impossible to kill it like this. He is still a little reluctant. After hitting you, naturally I won't fight hard. Kaido snorted coldly and didn't rush into action. Well, go with me now, and you'll be my man from now on, so you must obey. Lynn carried the knife and turned to leave. Kaido looked at the scars on his body, frowned, picked up a piece of clothing, wrapped it around his body, and followed Lynn away. The two men crossed the street one after the other, and there were fewer and fewer people. As for Lynn's men, they had already been hiding far away, and did not dare to go near the battlefield of the two at all. Halfway through, Lynn suddenly stopped. By the way, Kaido, you must remember in the future that you are my person, and you must listen to me, and only listen to me. Kaido frowned. What do you mean? Aren't you from the Rox Pirates? Yes, I am indeed a member of the Rox Pirates, but Rox is now becoming more and more rampant and wants to challenge the world government. There's a good chance that the future Rox will lose, and if he does, it's my time. Lynn is confident about the future. Kaido looked at Lynn's quilt and felt Lynn's strong ambition. This is definitely an ambitionist, but in the future, there will definitely be a place for Lynn. Maybe Lynn has a lot of future. Although the young Kaido already had ambitions, after all, he was not as arrogant as the future, and he did not expect to become the fourth emperor. He was just thinking now that maybe following Lynn was a good choice, at least Lynn was strong enough. The two men soon arrived at the pirate ship. Getting on board, Kaido was sitting across from Lynn, and many pirates nearby were shivering. Not long ago, they were a little arrogant under Lynn's men, and as a result, they were beaten to the ground by Kaido. It turns out that even if Kaido is injured, it is easy to teach these pirates a lesson. No, these pirates were all blown up. Hey, go get me something to eat. Kaido suddenly roared. I had just been injured by Lynn, and now my stomach was still quite hungry. Yes, let's prepare. The pirates were frightened and hurried into the cabin, and Lynn did not stop them. This is the treatment that the strong should have. A week later, the ship finally returned to the Rox Pirates. Kaido followed Lynn and stepped out of the boat together, then glanced around. Is this the Rox Pirates? It doesn't seem like there's anything strong about it. Lynn glanced at Kaido. I advise you to be careful, I can only rank in the top 10 or so in this whole pirate group, and I am not in the top 3. That's right, in addition to Rox, there are also Whitebeard and Golden Lionstone, both of whom are stronger than Lynn. Although John and Wang Ji have never been compared, they should not be worse than him. He dared to be careless. But as long as in 2 years, the 2 reinforcement points are in hand, he is definitely the most beautiful boy in the new world. Except for Rox, even Whitebeard wouldn't necessarily be his opponent. Are you in the top 10? Kaido was completely shocked. You know, Lynn can easily take care of him with 2 knives, and as a result, in this pirate group, he can only rank in the top 10. Sure enough, this world is still a crouching tiger, a hidden dragon, and in the future, don't be too arrogant, otherwise you don't know how to die. One by one, the 2 men entered the base camp of Rox, where everyone was at the moment. Because there is almost nothing to do, these people will not leave all year round, except for drinking, and occasionally fighting. Lynn had just walked in, and everyone was looking at Lynn, more on Kaido. This was the member of the Rox Pirate who provoked them, who looked particularly young and arrogant. Although Kaido had decided not to cause trouble, his expression was still particularly arrogant, so he sat next to Lynn and did not say hello. Boy, you're arrogant, don't you know how to say a good word to your elders? Scrock felt that Kaido was particularly arrogant, took up his weapon, and prepared to educate Kaido. However, Shurji was just about to move, when Lynn suddenly pulled out the sharp blade in his hand and gently swung the sword, and a flash of red light flashed by. Ski subconsciously stopped. Lynn, what are you doing? Want to do it with me? So what? Kaido is my little brother, the big brother stands up for the little brother. This is a matter of course. Do you want to fight? Of course, Lynn couldn't admit it, he should have done it, there was no need to be so afraid. Kaido was still very touched in his heart, but he always felt that something was wrong. Wait, little brother. He did not admit that he was a little brother. Kaido complained in his heart, but did not say how to say that Lynn was also for him. Whitebeard also stood up and raised the large knife in his hand, and the tip of the knife was aimed at Shirji. Shiki, if you want to fight, then do it, and I'll beat you into the sea. Newgate, I've been watching you for a long time, there is a kind of fight between the two of us. What are you talking about? I also see that you are not happy. Several cadres just quarreled. Basically, they look at each other unfavorably, and there are contradictions between everyone. Kaido was dumbfounded by the side. This seems a bit weird. Is there going to be a fight like this? Episode 22. Shirji, I've long seen you unhappy, Lao Tzu will hack you to death today. Lynn rushed out, raised her large knife, and slashed at Squire. Shirji didn't expect Lynn to suddenly move, and he was a little angry. Fight and fight, who is afraid of whom? Lao Tzu, I will hack you to death now and chop you into shreds. Newgate, don't talk nonsense, I'll hack you to death today. No, I should have hacked you to death. Whitebeard and the other man also cut each other. The others could not restrain themselves, each took up a weapon, and began to cut the other, and without a weapon, they fought with their fists. It's just that although these people fought, they didn't get serious, they just casually slashed a few knives and got a few punches. They knew very well that if there was a real fight, so many people, the whole island would be destroyed. So unless necessary, absolutely not desperately. Kaido was dumbfounded. Is that how it started? Almost without a word. Also, even if you fight, you should be a little more serious, and it is best to be able to be a little more brutal and slap the other party to death. Or slash each other to death with a knife. It's a child's play. Half an hour later, Lynn sorted out her clothes and left with Kaido and Whitebeard. Played for half an hour, even the room was not destroyed, it was pure boredom, to pass the time. Kaido still hasn't eased up. He was a little skeptical that this was the most powerful pirate in the world, but rather a circus. Well, Kaido, don't be surprised, after all, we are all people standing at the top of the world, and if we really fight, this island will definitely not be able to hold on. Lynn interrupted Kaido. Kaido nodded slightly, but didn't say anything. Whitebeard glanced at Kaido from the side. Lynn, is this your little brother? It looks pretty good. Kaido heard the two words of the little brother, quite unhappy, could not help but put his hands on his chest, and looked at the white beard. Who are you again? Dare to talk to me like that. Lynn was happy, and Kaido was still quite arrogant. Kaido, forgot to tell you, his name is Edward Newgate, he is very strong, you don't want to be too arrogant. Honestly, even I wasn't Whitebeard's opponent, but actually, Whitebeard was a little older than me. Yes, Whitebeard is not much better than Lynn, just a little older and growing faster. After 2 years, he was able to press the white beard to the ground and rub it, and 10 years later, he could knead the white beard into a ball. Just him? Kaido looked at the white beard carefully, and he couldn't believe that this guy was actually stronger than Lynn. Lynn's strength must be the strongest he expected, and no one should be more powerful than him. Boy, since you don't believe me, let you see how good I am. Whitebeard raised his large knife and slammed it hard against Kaido with his back to him. Kaido quickly dodged the large knife, and then looked at Whitebeard with some anger. Damn, I'll bring you down now. The angry Kaido raised his huge fist and slammed it hard into Whitebeard's head, as if to vent his anger. Whitebeard did not hit the knife, and quickly extended his other hand, and the white air mass on his arm slammed into Kaido. Bang! The fists of the two collided together, and the invisible air current exploded and spread in all directions. Suddenly cracks appeared on the ground, spreading throughout the street, and the nearby walls suddenly collapsed. Kaido's face was particularly ugly, and his arms trembled slightly, but he gritted his teeth to bear it. He could now understand that the power of the white beard was indeed a special pervert, especially the power of the vibration, which was even more powerful. It is estimated that even Lynn is not comparable. No wonder Lynn thought she was inferior to Whitebeard. Kaido also regretted it, knowing that Whitebeard was so powerful, he didn't want to challenge Whitebeard. How can it take a while, wait until you become stronger, and then go to Whitebeard to find the field? Lynn shook her head at the side. Newgate, how to say that it is also my little brother, the subordinates are merciful, don't be too cruel. Got it, it's up to me. The white beard clenched his right hand, and his entire arm suddenly bulged, looking like Kong Wu was powerful. The white air mass was also constantly getting bigger, and the vast force instantly overwhelmed Kaido, shaking Kaido's arm to the side. Then the strong right arm hit Kaido's face hard, and the white air mass was constantly impacting Kaido's face. With one force, Whitebeard pressed Kaido hard to the ground, and the crack in the ground continued to expand, and a huge pit suddenly appeared. Kaido's whole body was confused, his mind was dizzy, and there was a constant buzzing sound in his ears. Lynn covered her forehead. Newgate, that's what you mean when you say that your men were merciful, hitting people directly on the ground, and beating him up. I didn't kill him, I was already merciful to my men, wasn't it? Whitebeard asked rhetorically. Lynn was dumbfounded when asked. It seems to be quite right, without hurting the killer, it is already a mercy to the subordinates. It's just a matter of beating people up. It was a little poor Kaido, who had been slashed by him not long ago, and this time he was beaten by Whitebeard again. Forget it, just to teach Kaido a lesson. Kaido slowly stood up and shook his head, and after a while, he returned to God. After returning to God, Kaido looked at the white beard in front of him, and his heart was particularly shocked, and he did not dare to continue to provoke. However, Kaido made up his mind that when he had a chance later, he must teach Whitebeard a lesson. At that time, he would also press Whitebeard's head to the ground and punch a deep pit so that Whitebeard would also be blinded. Although this possibility is not particularly large. But one always has to have a thought. Episode 23, The rest of life was particularly bland. Lynn was with Kaido every day, training together, eating together. As time went on, Kaido accepted Lynn as well. Although no Lynn is the boss, but Lynn's words, Kaido will generally obey. Lynn was polite and didn't have a boss shelf. On this day, Lynn and Kaido were exercising by the river, and Whitebeard wasn't here, and there were no other pirates. While Lynn was exercising, a group of pirates suddenly passed by Lynn's side. Did you just hear that? It was as if a demon fruit had appeared. I heard that. It seems to be an esper species, fish and fish fruit, right? Yeah, it's a pity, we don't have enough strength, but it's okay, go to Captain Locke's now, with him there, we can definitely take it. Lynn hears the pirates' conversation and is about to slash Kaido with a knife, when she subconsciously stops. Fish fruit esper species morphology. This is not the fruit of Kaido's future, but it was later obtained by the ant and then transferred to Kaido. I didn't expect his luck to be so good, he actually knew the whereabouts of the fish fruit esper species form in advance. It is very likely that the ant got it at this time, but it has not been used, and then handed over to Kaido, which is considered to have won Kaido's friendship. More importantly, these cadres don't need demon fruits, and Kaido, and in turn, needs and talent. Got your chance. Feeling that he had seized the opportunity, Kaido suddenly rushed to Lynn's side, holding the mace in his hand, and slammed down on Lynn. Lynn quickly stepped back, pulled away from Kaido, and quickly came to the pirates. You just said that there is the whereabouts of the devil fruit, where is it? Ah, it seems to be a place called the Land of Flowers in the West Sea, and I don't know exactly where it is. The pirates didn't hide either. Kaido also knew that Lynn was in trouble and did not do it. By the way, Lord Lynn, let's go first. A few pirates turned and prepared to leave. They didn't notice that Lynn had a murderous look in her eyes. Just as the pirates turned their backs on him, Lynn suddenly raised her knife, a charge, and several flashes of red light. The pirates were all solved by Lynn. Only one pirate, with difficulty, held out his hand and pointed at Lynn, as if to ask, why kill them? Lynn made up another knife. The pirate completely lost his breath. Kaido, clean up the traces quickly. Lynn grabbed a few pirates and threw them into the sea, then pulled them hard and led them in search of the Sea Kings. Although Kaido was confused and did not understand why Lynn was doing this, he still pulled the pirates and jumped into the sea. Before long, all the corpses on the bottom of the sea were fed by Lynn to the Sea Kings. After going ashore, Lynn disposed of all the blood again, and there was no trace of it. Kaido sat next to Lynn, a little confused. Lynn, why do you want to do something to those people? Aren't we a pirate group? Quite simply, we are only united for certain purposes, and we will fight each other, and it is normal to kill them. And, didn't you hear that? That's the fish fruit esper seed form, you just lack a demon fruit. This demon fruit is quite good. That's right, Lynn killed these people in order to grab the demon fruit and give it to Kaido. Otherwise, he was afraid of accidents, and although he thought that the masters did not need the demon fruit, Locks would not necessarily give it to Kaido. So he had to do it himself. Kaido was stunned, he didn't expect Lynn to kill so many people just to get him a demon fruit. Even if Kaido's personality is a bit tyrannical, he is still quite touched in his heart. Well, don't say so much, now go to the West Sea, go to the Land of Flowers, and try to grab that demon fruit, you just need it. Okay. The two men immediately summoned the pirate ship and gradually left the Rox Pirate Regiment. On deck, there was only Lynn and Kaido, and there was no one else nearby. Lynn, is this fish very fruitful? Kaido was still looking forward to this demon fruit. After all, it will be the fruit of the demons given to him. Of course, the fish fruit esper species form should be in the form of a dragon, which can swallow flames, and the most important thing is not to be afraid of the sea. Seriously, if it weren't for the fact that Lynn's demon fruit was enhanced, he would have planned to look for the fish fruit as well. Now that you have it, you don't need it anymore. Kaido's eyes also revealed a cold light. Being able to turn into a dragon, being an animal esper species, and not being afraid of the sea is indeed a good demon fruit. Thank you. Kaido suddenly said a word of thanks. Lynn paused, looking at Kaido with some disbelief. You actually thanked me, really fake? Aren't you supposed to be transferred by someone? Do you also thank people? Kaido's face darkened instantly, and it was rare to thank someone, and Lynn actually doubted him, too arrogant. It also broke his heart. Lynn, if I'm stronger, the first thing to do is to beat you to death. Ha ha ha. Lynn laughed. Kaido was laughing too. The two men seemed to have a pretty good relationship. On the other hand, Rox also found that his men were missing, but he could not find out why. He couldn't have guessed that his men had been solved by Lynn. After all, there was no contradiction between the two sides. Rox, though furious, had no choice but to accept it all. The main thing is that these men are too powerful, and Rox is just angry and has no intention of avenging these people. These people are also not eligible. Episode 24, West Sea, the Land of Flowers. In the entire West Sea, it is also one of the top 2 kingdoms, with a very strong military strength. Especially the current bandit group 8 Treasures Water Army, the leader of which is also a pirate with a super high bounty. The leader's name is the Green Pepper of the Cone. That's right, the Green Pepper in the original book who was flattened by Kapu. But don't look at him being squashed by Kapu, but the strength is also very strong, and the bounty at the peak reached 500 million Baileys. The bounty is similar to Lynn, but the real strength is still different from Lynn. After all, Lynn had a bounty of 500 million Baileys, just because she had a bounty for the first time, so there was only so much. But Green Peppers, he just has so much. Although 500 million Baileys is only a rough number. Is this the land of flowers? Fish fruit really here? Kaido looked around at the kingdom in front of him. It was particularly ordinary, and the civilian strength inside was also very good. These people, he can kill many with one stick. It should be right here, the country of flowers, the West Sea. There is only one like this, and there is absolutely no mistake. Lynn herself was muttering in her heart. He couldn't really be mistaken. But if you think about it, it should not be just such a country of flowers. Idiots will not be mistaken. Let's go up and have a look. Lynn took Kaido to the land of the flower country. The soldiers on both sides noticed Lynn and Kaido. After all, the two were so popular that it was difficult not to notice. When they saw the flag on Lynn's pirate ship, their faces instantly turned pale. Rox Pirates. In the New World, and even in the whole world, you may not know the other pirates, but you must not fail to know the Rox Pirates. Because the Rox Pirates are powerful. It seems to be Lynn, one of the top cadres of the Rox Pirates, the Esper breed demon fruit ability. One of the soldiers recognized Lynn at first sight, and his eyes were filled with trepidation. These sea thieves, each very powerful. Lynn ignored the soldiers and took Kaido with her and headed straight for the middle of the kingdom. After all, he is not a person here, and it is still very difficult to find something, so he can only invite the land snake here. Oh. The so-called serpent is the king of the kingdom. With the strength of him and Kaido, they could completely suppress the whole country, so there was no need to waste time and directly hit it. Stop, this is the palace, and civilians are not allowed to enter. 2 soldiers blocked Lynn. Before Lynn could speak, Kaido picked up the mace and smashed it so hard that the 2 soldiers couldn't hold it at all, so they were beaten away. Then it became a star, completely dissipating without a trace. Lynn sighed. Why die? Kaido loves fish and fish fruits, so anyone who stops him will be beaten by him and fly without a trace. No, someone called in. The other soldiers all reacted, immediately took their weapons, and rushed quickly towards Lynn. Lynn slowly stretched out a hand and placed it on the handle of the sword, and a dark light burst out, instantly enveloping his arm. Sonorous. A metallic sound sounded, red light burst out, and all the soldiers who were close to Lynn had no time to move, so they fell to the ground. Bang bang bang. One by one fell to the ground. There was blood everywhere on the ground, staining the ground red. Dealing with these ordinary soldiers, there is no right for Lynn to show his full strength. With a knife, it is already very face-saving. As for transforming into the form of a black dragon, it is a waste of time. Go, let's go in. Lynn walked toward the palace. Along the way, there were many soldiers who came out to block, but there was no soldier who stopped Lynn, and it was solved in 3 or 2 clicks. Inside the palace, the king also knew that someone outside had come in, and he was particularly panicked. Quick, go west and ask the green pepper chief of the cone. The king shouted in panic. As soon as Lynn came in, she heard the king's voice, and her face was a little strange. How it sounds like going to the western heavens to invite the Buddha. If it was really the Buddha, let alone say anything, Lynn immediately knelt down and begged for forgiveness, and then found a place to spend the rest of his life. The king and his ministers also saw Lynn. Who are you? Why here? Lynn didn't answer, but stepped forward and looked around carefully. It seems that you are the king of the flower country, and I am a cadre of the Rox Pirates, and this time I would like to ask you for a favor. Although Lynn never paid attention to the Rox Pirates, it was not to be said that the names of the Rox Pirates were still very loud. The Rox Pirates. When several people heard the name of this pirate group, their faces changed instantly. This is the largest pirate group in the New World today. I remember, Your Majesty the King, he is Lynn the Black Dragon, indeed a cadre of the Rox Pirates, with a bounty of 500 million Baileys. A thought flashed through the mind of a certain minister. The king's face became even uglier. Whether it is the bounty of 500 million Bailey, or the cadres of the Rox Pirate Regiment, it is more difficult to deal with. He only hoped that the green pepper of the cone would arrive as soon as possible. I don't know what your purpose is here. The king was a little uneasy inside. Actually, it's very simple. I want you to obey my orders for the time being and help me find something. The smile on Lynn's face was quite bright. What is so much nonsense for? Hit them directly, until they surrender. Kaido was a little upset and impatient. In his view, it can be completely solved by violence. Don't be so violent, violence can't solve the problem, the most important thing is that getting that thing is more important. Lynn didn't want to waste time. If you kill too many people, you're in some trouble. Kaido didn't say anything more, just stared directly at the king and the ministers. Episode 25, Damn Pirates, it is so arrogant to dare to come to our country of flowers and spread wilderness. Outside, a man suddenly rushed in, quickly rushed to Lynn's side, flew in the air, and turned his head to Lynn. Lynn could see the man at a glance. Green pepper of the cone. This sharp general head is too easy to recognize, it is a bit arrogant, it seems that it should be repaired, and the green pepper is taught a harsh lesson. Lynn suddenly clenched her right hand and turned around, raising her arm high, dark domineering, wrapped around it. Give Lao Tzu to die. Kaido next to him also raised his wolf's tooth rod and smashed it hard against the green pepper. Lynn paused. He was still ready to move, Kaido was closer to the green pepper, and the speed was faster, he couldn't dodge it too much, and could only watch Kaido smash down. Such a rare opportunity was snatched away by Kaido. He was also ready to shine, after all, as long as he had achievements, he could get gift packs or enhancement points. So to be famous, any opportunity cannot be missed. Even if this guy is a dish, it is still a little famous in the West Sea. Just as Lynn was thinking, green pepper jumped to the side, dodging Kaido's attack. Kaido's mace slammed into the ground, smashing out a huge pit and creating a strong torrent that spread in all directions. Flying stones burst out. With a slap on the wrist, Lynn smashed a stone into powder and dissipated without a trace. Green pepper pulled away from Kaido, and his eyes were full of solemnity. This stout man was really powerful, and if that stick was hit, even if he wasn't killed, he would probably be injured. No, you have to be careful. Kaido, just now the king ran away, you quickly catch up, don't let him run, remember to catch alive. Lynn walked over to Kaido, the green pepper he could deal with himself. Kaido didn't think much of it, turned around and left. Don't try to run. Green pepper immediately chased after it, but before he could catch up, he was stopped by Lynn. Lynn clenched her fists and opened her hands, her muscles trembling, and her body became very strong. Your opponent is me. Although it is not clear the specific strength of the green pepper, since it can let Kapu personally shoot, there should still be some strength. Since you want to do it, don't blame me for not being polite, just let you see my real strength. Green pepper did not hesitate, his eyes were on Lynn, and his body bent slightly, ready to use his head to chisel through Lynn fiercely. Bang bang bang. Lynn looked at the fast-running green pepper, slammed on the ground, stepped out of a large pit, and the whole person leaped up in the air and easily dodged. Green pepper did not stabilize his body for a while, and hit the wall, penetrating the wall. It's pretty fierce. Lynn couldn't help but clap her hands. Green Pepper quickly turned around and faced Lynn directly. You can't hide from it. No, I don't want to hide at all, I want you to see my true strength. Lynn sneered and opened her hands, and a large number of black scales suddenly appeared on her body, all over her body. Then the body continued to expand. First of all, the head became the dragon's head, and secondly, half of the body also rapidly enlarged. Originally, he did not intend to black dragon eyes, but seeing that the green pepper was quite arrogant, he decided to black the dragon and teach a lesson to the green pepper fiercely. Also let this guy know what it means to be someone outside of people. But in a few moments, a black dragon hundreds of meters long stood in front of the green pepper. Green Pepper had originally planned to use his head to push down, but when he saw the huge dragon in front of him, he paused slightly. He now had some doubts about whether he would knock himself into this black dragon or not. After all, this dragon is really too big. It gives people a feeling that black clouds are crushing the city. How? Keep bumping, give you a chance, don't admit it, you should face it head on. Lynn lifted the huge dragon claw, then held out a finger and made a dismissive gesture. Damn, don't look down on people, even if you become so big, I can still teach you to knock you unconscious. Green Pepper gritted his teeth, bent down again, his head aimed at Lynn, and ran fast. While running, the green pepper's head was covered with a dark domineering spirit, and under the sunlight, it emitted a dark luster. Lynn looked at it from the sky and always felt that the head of the green pepper was like an awl. A man actually looks so strange. Boom. At the moment when the green pepper approached, Lynn also slowly raised the huge dragon claw, ready to shoot at the green pepper. Green Pepper was very fast, and at the moment of Lynn's action, he jumped into the air, and then crashed into Lynn. Ha ha ha. Although you have become very large and powerful, you are relatively slow. It was as if he could already see that he had crashed into Lynn before he could react. Then, with his sharpest weapon, the head, he cut a large hole in Lynn's body and defeated Lynn completely. Idiot. Lynn sneered, then took a step back at a speed that didn't fit the size of his size, and slapped it hard. The speed was very fast, and the green pepper only saw a black shadow, a huge palm, like a big mountain, falling from the sky, close in front of him. How is that possible? How can you be so fast? Green Pepper couldn't help but exclaim, it seemed hard to accept Lynn being so fast. Lynn didn't spare his men, and the huge palm slapped the green pepper's body head-on. The power that was enough to destroy the mountain peak continued to pour out, crushing the green pepper. The green pepper flew out uncontrollably and then landed on the ground, but still quickly stabilized his body, using Lynn on top of his head. Episode 26. Green Pepper was standing on the ground, with Lynn's dragon claws on his head, his hands clenched into fists, his face covered with sweat, and his arms were even more green and violent. At this moment, Green Pepper has shown all his strength, not only to defeat Lynn, but also for his own face. Lynn sneered, her right hand harder, and the dark domineering spirit came out and covered her arm in an instant. There was also a hint of red light around the domineering side. Flowing cherry blossoms are domineering. Or a higher level of domineering control. Compared to Lynn, the domineering spirit of Green Pepper is very ordinary black, the same as most people. Only a few people in this world can control the high-level use of domineering. Click. On the ground, a crack suddenly appeared, and it continued to expand. Green Pepper's 2 feet were also deep in the ground. Boom. The rift suddenly turned into a deep pit. Green Pepper almost didn't stabilize his body, but he still tightly stabilized the lower plate, and the strength of his whole body, upwards, tried to defeat Lynn with his own cone. In the distance, Kaido also captured the king. Those people wanted to rebel, but now Kaido's strength was already comparable to that of the green pepper of the cone. Not to mention the ordinary people. The king looked at the 2 people who were fiercely anxious, and his heart was particularly expectant, and his hands were clenched into fists, quite nervous. He only hoped that Green Pepper would win. But just when he was so hopeful, Lynn suddenly erupted with a stronger force, and his arm pressed down hard. Green Pepper's face suddenly changed, and the original cone-shaped head was also crushed by Lynn, and the eyeballs protruded even more, as if they were about to fall. Bang! Lynn pressed hard and directly pressed the green pepper to the ground, as if he was hitting the ground pile, and the whole person hit it. After getting the green pepper done, Lynn turned into a human form. The king's eyes widened, and his hopeful green pepper was actually defeated by Lynn, and his head was squashed. Green Pepper did not faint, but was temporarily blinded, and when he returned to God, Green Pepper immediately jumped up and covered his already deflated head. Impossible, absolutely impossible, how could my head possibly be injured? Kaido touched his chin, looked at it carefully, and then gave Green Pepper a knife. It looks like a lump and a lump. Lynn. This description is really apt. Not to mention, it's really like a lump and a lump. Green Pepper was originally very angry, and now he was ridiculed by Kaido, and he was even more angry, with a trace of tears in his eyes. Damn, I won't let you go. Bang. Lynn slammed into the ground, then raised her fist and punched Green Pepper in the face. Green Pepper also raised his arm, which was also covered with domineering spirit, and even more anger, and his strength was even greater than before. Bang. With a loud noise, the Green Pepper flew out backwards, crashed into the wall on one side, and was buried by the ruins. The king's eyes widened in disbelief. The most powerful person in their kingdom was actually thrown out with a fist. This strength is really weak. Okay, the team is over, now it's our time. Lynn turned and walked toward the king. I heard that the fish, fruit, esper species form once appeared in your flower country, isn't it? The king understood Lynn's purpose instantly, and some wanted to cry without tears. The demon fruit was not in his place, he had been beaten in vain, and knowing Lynn's purpose, he would have immediately sent Lynn away, and there would not be such a big trouble. Well, the Green Peppers are all wounded. This lord, the fish fruit is not in my place, it is said that it was taken away by the Capone family of the Underworld family, and I am not very clear about the specifics. The king cried and mourned, today is too unlucky, never encountered such an unfortunate thing. Bad luck turned out to be bad luck, and the king couldn't do anything about it, and he couldn't afford to offend Lynn at all. Wouldn't it have been nice to say that earlier? If I had to teach a lesson, it was really a bone. Lynn casually took a dress, put it on herself, turned and left. He didn't have the energy to deal with these people at all, and with this time, he had already found the demon fruit. Kaido also didn't have the energy to deal with these people, striding behind Lynn, just trying to find the fish fruit as soon as possible. The king looked at the two men who had already left, and they were about to cry. Who would have thought that these two people would be so easy to deal with? Back on the boat, Kaido sat next to Lynn. Are the fish fruits really there? He had special expectations for the fruits of the fish and fish. Rest assured, I will find it as soon as possible, such an excellent demon fruit must not be obtained by others. A cold light appeared in Lynn's eyes. In fact, he wasn't sure, but such a good demon fruit certainly couldn't be given up, even if it wasn't received by then. Kaido didn't say anything more, the demon fruit absolutely could not give up, people blocked killing, and gods blocked killing gods. By the way, why didn't you kill those people just now? Trying to provoke us. There is no need to kill people, mainly I still don't want to waste time, with this time, it is better to leave as soon as possible and strive to find the demon fruit as soon as possible. Lynn lay on the deck, resting with her eyes closed. Kaido thought about it carefully, too, a bunch of scum, killing them is a waste of time. With this time, it is better to find the demon fruit as soon as possible. By the way, don't you hurry up, if my demon fruit is gone, I'll peel your skin. Kaido suddenly yelled at the pirate. The pirates were frightened. Yes, we'll speed it up now. Desperate pirates, the speed is indeed much faster. Lynn stood at the bow of the pirate ship, looking off into the distance and admiring the beautiful sea breeze. Kaido stood next to Lynn, silent. A week later, Lynn's ship finally reached the West Sea Sopranos camp. Episode 27, West Sea, the Capone family. At this moment, the patriarch is holding a celebration party. Because not so long ago, they had snatched a very rare demon fruit, so they were ready to celebrate. While the patriarch was happy, he was slightly sorry, he was already a demon fruit ability, otherwise he could eat this demon fruit. However, he planned to collect it first, wait for a while, and give this demon fruit to his son to eat. Patriarch, congratulations on obtaining such a precious demon fruit. Yes, congratulations to the patriarch. A group of his men were congratulating the patriarch. The patriarch was also very happy. Bang bang bang. Just when the patriarch was happy, a series of explosions suddenly came from outside. Who the hell is that? The patriarch's face became ugly, and he felt that he had been punched in the face. He was holding a celebration party here, and someone outside actually called in, which was too arrogant and arrogant. Without teaching these rampant people, I don't know how powerful they are in the Capone family. Who the hell would dare to? Boom. The patriarch was about to say something when suddenly there was a rumbling sound, and the gate was slammed into the air, flying out frontally, and just hit the patriarch. With a loud noise, the patriarch was thrown into the wall, and the whole person fell into it, and completely fainted. The poor patriarch, although his strength was a little stronger, but facing Lynn, he couldn't even hold on to a move. The others also noticed at this time that many soldiers who had fallen outside were wailing bitterly, looking very painful. "Who are you?" As soon as one of them spoke, Kaido raised his mace and hit him hard, sending the man flying out without a trace. When the others saw that someone as powerful as themselves had been beaten up, they were all frightened and did not dare to speak, so they were silent. Many people are even more frightened and trembling. Lynn walked slowly into the room and glanced around. "What about your boss here?" Everyone collectively looked at a gate ahead. Their boss was beaten by the gate. Lynn also noticed the eyes of these people and waved to Kaido next to him. Kaido immediately walked over and lifted the door. "There's a guy here, but it seems you've knocked you unconscious." Lynn's face darkened. Such a waste, actually still being a triad, losing all face, actually still the boss. The others nodded subconsciously. It's really quite wasteful, and it was really humiliating to say that they were smashing by the door panel, and they were all wondering if they should quit the Capone family. "No nonsense, did your boss get a demon fruit?" Lynn glanced around. A sharp momentum was slowly released, and many people were affected by this momentum, trembling and trembling. It's horrible. It was as if what stood in front of them at this moment was not a person, but a bloodthirsty beast. "If you don't speak, then you will die." Kaido picked up the mace and prepared to do it. The angry Kaido, with a red light in his eyes, looked particularly angry, and the people nearby were even more frightened, but they also woke up. "Wait," we said, "our boss did get a demon fruit before, it looks very rare, but we don't know what kind of demon fruit it is." Kaido then stopped moving. "Say, where is the devil fruit?" "My lord, the demon fruit is at our boss's place, and our boss has been knocked unconscious by you." Kaido only then noticed the stunned man and turned to look at Lynn. "This seems to mean that this person was knocked unconscious by you, and it was all your fault." Lynn's face darkened. "What to see? I didn't hurry up to wake him up and torture him, I still don't believe it, I don't know the whereabouts of the demon fruit." "Yes." Immediately run out of a few underworld gangsters and walked to the side of the patriarch. It shook fiercely for a long time before the patriarch was woken up and brought to the front of Lynn. "Who the hell are you?" Before Lynn could ask, the patriarch asked. Snap. "Are you awake now?" Lynn slapped the patriarch in the face, instantly waking up the patriarch. Now that he is a prisoner of the order, he should not be too arrogant. "My lord, there is something good to say." The patriarch confessed, knowing that he could not beat Lynn, of course, he could not be too arrogant. "Take out the demon fruit, if you can't get it out, I'll kill all of you." Lynn had a murderous look in her eyes. The patriarch instantly understood Lynn's purpose. Lynn must have come for that demon fruit, and he didn't expect to hide it for so long, and finally exposed. "I'll give it to you." Although the patriarch was a little reluctant, he finally took out the demon fruit. After getting the demon fruit, Lynn weighed it slightly twice, and took out the demon fruit atlas, carefully examining it. "Make sure this is the fish fruit Esper species." Lynn is relieved. "Kaido, the good stuff is in hand, now it's time to go." Lynn turned and left. Kaido was also elated, with a rare smile on his face. "I remember, I know who they are." Someone suddenly realized that Lynn was in his mind. Others were also looking at the man at the same time. "Boss, this man seems to be called Lynn, a senior cadre of the Rox Pirates." Bang. As soon as the man finished speaking, the patriarch fired a shot and killed the man. When you don't know. Also use you to say more." The patriarch snorted coldly, but in fact he was still unhappy inside, trying to find someone to vent his anger, and the man directly hit the head of the gun. Everyone else bowed their heads, their bodies trembling, a little frightened in their hearts. "Let me go." The patriarch turned around and snorted coldly, feeling a pain in his heart. Such an excellent demon fruit was snatched away by Lynn. Episode 28. On the deck, Lynn weighed the demon fruit in her hand, and Kaido watched from the sidelines. This big eye blinked, like a dog, standing next to it, watching its master eat. Although it is a bit of an exaggeration. "Lynn, you're pretty much done, it's time to give me the devil fruit." "Then take it." Lynn didn't think much of it, threw the demon fruit out, and was immediately caught by Kaido. After Kaido caught the demon fruit, he took a bite and ate it, so bitter that even Kaido's face cried. This expression looks very painful. Lynn was very curious, saying that the demon fruit had the taste of siang, and he had not yet tasted the real flavor of the demon fruit. After a moment, Kaido eased up, then opened his hands and thought about it, his arms covered with cyan scales. Is this the devil fruit? Kaido's body grew more and more scales, and suddenly there was a beard on his face, and then half of his body turned into a green dragon. The next second, Kaido's entire body turned into a green dragon, floating in mid-air, 100 meters long body, similar to Lynn. But Lynn still looked more robust. Dragon, this is the Esper species demon fruit. The pirates looked at the sky excitedly. Such a good demon fruit, unfortunately not for them, they can only look at it enviously. Kaido flew in mid-air, flew for a while, and looked at the reflection on the surface of the sea again. With a slender figure, Kaido is more and more fond of it. Yes, I love this demon fruit. As he spoke, Kaido lowered his head and set his eyes on Lynn, his eyes full of war. Kaido, who had obtained the demon fruit, had already begun to stir in his heart, and he wanted to see who was more powerful. Lynn, let's fight. Kaido's two huge eyes were on Lynn, he just wanted to challenge Lynn, and he was quite recognized. Lynn also saw what Kaido was thinking, and also turned into a black dragon form. The two dragons just looked at each other. A slender blue dragon, the other is a relatively strong black dragon. Although it looks very different, each dragon is majestic. It's so powerful, this should be a battle between dragons, it's terrible. The pirates were a little excited to see it. But don't say that Lord Lynn's black dragon form looks even more powerful. Indeed, although Lord Kaido is also very handsome, he is still a little bit close. A few pirates whispered comments. Not to mention, the same as the dragon form, Lynn is indeed majestic, more domineering, that looks more frightening. Kaido's face instantly darkened. He is also quite handsome, and these people actually say that Lynn is more handsome, too blind. Kaido, it's time to go. Lynn slowly stretched out a dragon's claw and slapped it at Kaido. The space exploded, with a bang. Kaido was still ready to be angry, but when he saw Lynn attacking, he couldn't take care of the pirates anymore, and his eyes were on Lynn. Looking at Lynn with his right hand, Kaido was also ready to wave his hand to meet it. But as soon as he raised his hand, he found that although he also had dragon claws, they were too short to reach Lynn, let alone fight. Kaido didn't react and was slapped on the body by Lynn. The powerful force shot Kaido directly into the sea. Kaido, you were careless. Lynn sneered and flew into the sea, then grabbed Kaido, picked him up, and flew into the air. In this way, it is like a bird catching an earthworm. That's right, Kaido in dragon form, being held like this by Lynn, is still struggling. Kaido, you can't be so careless. Lynn threw Kaido aside, and Kaido fell heavily into the sea, setting off a large amount of seawater. Kaido just struggled for a moment, then immediately flew over and floated in front of Lynn. Damn, just careless, I didn't get used to it for a while. Lynn didn't speak. Just now Kaido really didn't get used to coming over, otherwise it would be impossible to reach out, that tiny dragon claw, not good at meat fighting. Lynn, on the other hand, is particularly good at hand-to-hand combat. Give me to die. Kaido opened his mouth and it was a red flame. The flames emitted a searing heat and constantly roared, and everywhere they passed, the temperature rose instantaneously, and the space was distorted by the combustion. The surface of the seawater was completely boiling, constantly tumbling, and a large amount of seawater was evaporated, and the white water vapor covered half of the sky. The sky was stained red by this hot flame. The pirates had their eyes wide open, their hands clenched into fists, and they looked at it with nervousness in their hearts, as if they were fighting. Flame, I'm sorry, I'm good at it too. Lynn also opened the dragon's mouth, and a large amount of black flames gathered in his mouth, and it was constantly rotating. The next second, the black flame burst out in a spiral, tearing open the space in an instant, rushing to the front of the red flame. The sky was shrouded in black and red. All the pirates looked at it with blank eyes. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud noise shook the clouds, and everyone's ears were deaf, and their brains went blank, as if time had been suspended. The next second, the pirates returned to their senses, and there was a constant roar in their heads, and they heard the dizziness of the brain, and even some dizziness. Everyone saw a huge mushroom cloud churn up. The mushroom clouds intertwined with black and red were constantly expanding, even crashing into the sky, tearing the sky apart. It was as if a huge abyss had appeared. Centered on Kaido and Lynn, a roaring force appeared, and soon a huge wave was set off. The waves spread in all directions. The sea could not be calmer. Episode 29. On the surface of the sea, mushroom clouds are constantly churning. The waves stacked layer after layer, and finally became higher and higher, reaching more than 10 meters. This is also because Lynn and Kaido fly higher, the impact is relatively far. If it is closer, it is estimated to be tens of meters of huge waves. But even the huge waves of more than 10 meters are very large, and ordinary ships simply cannot bear it. Quick, everyone hurry up and prepare, be sure to stabilize the ship, and don't let the ship sink. Many pirates are hurriedly pulling the sails, afraid that the pirate ship will be swallowed up by the waves. The pirates were already wet with the sea. But fortunately, they finally succeeded, and the pirate ship did not sink. In the sky, Lynn flew quickly rushed through the mushroom cloud, and instantly came to Kaido's side. Kaido's pupils narrowed, and he saw Lynn approaching, preparing to resist, and Lynn had already stretched out his claws. The sharp claws grabbed Kaido fiercely, and then grabbed it hard, and some of the scales were scratched by Lynn, and some blood was spilled. Ah! Kaido let out a scream, his face a little painful, and he looked very vicious. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Lynn's men were merciful and did not continue to arrest, otherwise Kaido would be finished. Definitely going to be badly injured by Lynn. Okay, the battle is over. Lynn transforms back into human form and returns to the pirate ship, and Kaido returns to the pirate ship. Kaido, who had changed back into human form, had a lot of scars on his body and was still bleeding, but it was not very serious. Kaido didn't take it to heart, just sat sullenly next to him. The battle had only been going on for a while, and he was scratched by Lynn, and of course he was not happy inside. Lynn sat next to Kaido, her hands on her chest. Well, Kaido, don't be depressed, you can't beat me, that's a matter of course, after all, I'm so strong and handsome. Kaido's face instantly turned black. Originally repaired by Lynn, he was already very unhappy. Lynn actually came over and taunted him. Lynn, what does it matter if you're strong or handsome? Kaido said very unhappily. Of course, there is a relationship, the handsome man will always have preferential treatment, and the heavens like to take care of a handsome guy like me. Lynn threw her hair away. More and more I feel very handsome. Kaido was depressed, didn't want to say much, and turned around very unhappy. Well, without further ado folks, it's time to go, aiming for a new world. Understood. New world, Rox Pirates. Rox stood on his own throne and looked down at the people below, but found that he still did not see Lynn, and his brow furrowed. What about Lynn? Why isn't he here? It was only now that he had discovered that as the captain of the Rox Pirates, he had failed so much without Lynn's contact information. Maybe I didn't care at all. Lynn, it seems that he has a crush on a demon fruit, and now that he has snatched it in the past, it is estimated that he will not be able to come back in a short time. Whitebeard was the only one who knew. Rox also did not ask more, each crew member has his own life, he naturally cannot interfere. Let him come back as soon as possible. Rox said only a word, and then left the living room and went outside, looking at the sun in the distance. He had already decided to strike at the Navy and the world government, to combat the arrogance of the Navy, and then to replace the world government and become the real king. So he needed Lynn back. Any high-end combat power is needed. In the new world, Lynn spent a while, spanning the entire windless belt, encountering a lot of sea kings, but they were all solved by Lynn. In the end, it was hard to come back. It is also a thriller. Lord Lynn, Captain Rox asked you to go back as soon as possible, and he has something to ask you. Lynn was eating when a pirate ran over. Rox is looking for me. Kaido next to him also frowned. What is he looking for us? Because he was subdued by Lynn, he was not loyal to Rox, but had a good feeling for Lynn. Don't care so much, since it's Rox, there's no way but to go to him in advance. Lynn continued to eat, not taking Rox's words to heart, and he was planning to go back recently anyway. The pirate ship continued to sail. Lord Lynn, it's not good, the Navy is found ahead. One pirate suddenly roared, instantly attracting the attention of all the other pirates. The Navy is nothing. Lynn was still calmly eating, that is, a navy, there was no danger at all. No. No, Lord Lynn, this time it wasn't an ordinary navy. The pirate saw Lynn so calm, and his heart was particularly speechless. Lynn turned her head to look. A navy that you don't know, there is no need to be afraid. Afraid of anything, at most a vice-admiral, dragon suit. Lord Lynn, that's a general, an admiral like the Sengoku. The pirates were almost about to cry, so calm in the face of the admiral, and did not know if Lynn could fight. Although Lynn is also one of the top cadres. Cough cough cough. Admiral? Lynn choked, Admiral, that was not something that could be dealt with easily, and caution was necessary. And he really didn't know that this was a Navy general, He thought that the Navy only had two generals, Sengoku and Zifa. Kaido also walked to the front at this time, looking at the naval warship in the distance. I've heard that there is indeed this admiral, who seems to be a natural dark fruit ability, but it must not be underestimated. Lin's face was green. Even Kaido's little brother knew. He didn't know. He always felt a little humiliated. He was also a spy installed by the world government. Being a spy is too much of a failure. Episode 30, Dark Fruit. Do you say he is a dark fruit ability? Lynn suddenly thought of the point. Dark fruit is the fruit that Blackbeard wants to get in the original book, and even for the sake of dark fruit, he will not hesitate to kill his companions and betray the Whitebeard pirate regiment. I didn't expect that at this time. There was actually a dark fruit, and the owner was actually an admiral. Opposite, the Navy also spotted Lynn. Mr. General, the pirate found opposite is Lynn, the highest cadre of the Rox Pirate Regiment, codenamed Black Dragon, who is an Esper breed with demon fruit abilities. The Navy began reporting to Jiros. Jiro stood at the bow of the boat, his hands on his chest, looking at Lynn with disdain in his eyes. That is, a demon fruit ability, and I am the nemesis of all demon fruit ability, even Lynn. That is to say, the warring states are relatively weak and cannot take him down at all. If it is me, I will take him down in minutes. Jiros' words were filled with disdain for the warring states. In particular, knowing that the Steelbone heir attaches great importance to the warring states, and even prepares to make the warring states a naval marshal, he is even more unhappy. He thought he was no worse than the Sengoku. Get me closer, and then attack. Jiros looked in Lin's direction, his eyes full of murderous anger, and had already made up his mind to destroy Lynn and let the warring states see his might. Understood. The Navy immediately approached Lynn. Lynn looked at the approaching Navy, knew the Navy's intentions, and felt a little helpless. In fact, he is also a colleague in the Navy, but since the Navy is ready to move, there is no way, he can only do it. You can't just retreat, others don't want face, he still wants face. The ships on both sides gradually approached. Fire me. Jiros took the lead in giving orders, and the sound of explosions on the surface of the sea flew over the round shells. Fire the cannon. Lynn also gave the order. Since the Navy is dead, there is no way but to accompany the Navy in a fight. The two sides immediately engaged in a fierce artillery battle. Pirate ships and warships also gradually approached. As soon as he approached, Jiros jumped off the warship, landed smoothly not far from Lynn, and then turned around, with a look of disdain. Especially seeing Lynn so young, Jiros looked down on Sengoku even more. Even Lynn couldn't beat it, it was really bad. Pirates, you can tie your hands and grab them. Jiros' domineering attitude made Lynn very unhappy. He was a pirate, and his expression was really unpleasant when he listened to the Navy. Kaido, I see this guy is very upset, you go to deal with those navies, I personally come to teach this guy a lesson. Lynn stripped off her coat, clenched her hands firmly, and then leapt into the air, instantly transforming into the form of a black dragon. The hundreds of meters long black dragon floated in mid-air, looking mighty, like a mountain. Navy, give you a chance to reorganize your language, or I'll blow you up right now. Lynn domineering side leak. The other navies saw the mighty black dragon and were a little frightened in their hearts, looking like Lynn was terrifying. Only Jiros, looking at the dragon in front of him, not only did not worry, but his eyes were full of disdain, and he did not put Lynn in his eyes. A pirate who doesn't know why, doesn't know how bad the warring states are, even you can't catch it, just by virtue of him, you can also be a Navy general. Jiros snorted coldly, his words dissatisfied with the warring states. Lynn naturally heard the voice of Jiros and instantly thought of Red Dog and Kuzon. Again, this is a struggle for power. He likes to watch good dramas, especially between admirals. I think that the warring states are deeply trusted by the steel skeleton, and it is likely that he is more handsome and has excellent ability, so he can get more support. Lynn said solemnly. Nonsense, I'm better than him, and I'm better than him. Jiros couldn't help but roar. But just after the roar, Jiros suddenly reacted. Bastard, what does this kind of thing have to do with the handsome chief? It doesn't matter, I just think he's more handsome than you, it's you who pulled more. Lynn had a sly look in her eyes. Jiros saw Lynn's ridicule, his eyes filled with endless anger, and he felt that he might have been humiliated. Pirate, I'll kill you now. An angry Jiros jumped, flew into the air in an instant, and then came to Lynn's side and raised his right hand. A large amount of black gas was released from Jiros' body. Pirate, my dark fruit, but your nemesis is also an invincible demon fruit. Jiros laughed maniacally, his eyes filled with the confidence of a fan, thinking he could defeat Lynn, or all the demon fruit powers. Lynn sneered. What invincible demon fruit, really when he did not understand the dark fruit, it was nothing more than being able to make other demon fruits invalid. It is not invincible at all. Not to mention that the dark fruit needs to resist twice as much pain, and if you really encounter a pure physical master, you will definitely be beaten and don't want it. But don't say that fighting against the demon fruit is really dragging. Jiros approached Lynn in an instant, the black gas in his hand with a very strong gravitational force. As soon as Lynn was about to retreat, she was affected by this gravitational force, her body paused, and she flew out uncontrollably. Although he quickly stabilized his body, Jiros took the opportunity to jump on Lynn's body and grabbed Lynn with one hand. Dark fruit launches. A large amount of black gas enveloped Lynn, and Lynn felt that her body was out of control, and her body gradually became smaller. Then from a black dragon to a human form. Lynn was a little confused, he had actually changed back from the black dragon form, and the system-enhanced demon fruit was actually restrained by the dark fruit, so that he could not use the demon fruit for the time being. Careless.